Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of CUB Live. We've got a great topic today. We're going to be talking about celebrating Earth Month on any budget. Happy Earth Week, everybody. Yesterday was Earth Day. This week is Earth Week, and we're in the middle of Earth Month. And we wanted to do a show that talked about, of course, climate change is a big problem, but we shouldn't be paralyzed by the problem. And so we want to talk about all the different ways you can fight climate change, you can save energy, you can save money on whatever budget you're on, whether it's no or low cost actions, whether it's more actions for on a moderate budget, and even big ticket items. We've got some great guests today. We've got Zoe Husband, Carbon-Free Buildings Coordinator at CUB. Hey, Zoe, welcome and happy Earth Week. We've got Matt Harvey, Program Coordinator at CUB. And our special guest is Julian Brown, who is a longtime CUB volunteer. I always get nervous when it'll be early Saturday morning, and all of a sudden I'll hear a text come over. And I'm thinking, oh, Julian is texting me again. He's got something for me to think about or something for me to do. I always know I'm in trouble. I should introduce myself. My name is Jim Chilson. I'm Director of Communications at CUB. And behind the scenes today, we've got Donald Sherman, who is the Digital Communications Coordinator. Thanks, Don, for all your work behind the scenes. So welcome, everybody. I don't know if you want to say a few words about Earth Month to get started.
Sure. Hey, friends. Thanks for joining. Earth Month is awesome. It's a busy time at CUB, and I think that's because we have such cool stuff to work on. It is a little bit of an abysmal time, especially for like clean energy programs on a federal level, but I always take solace in the fact that Illinois is a really great state for clean energy programs. So excited to dive into some of those.
And yes, from my standpoint, I'm a member of the Laudato Si ministry at my church and also at the diocese level. And so, of course, the encyclical Laudato Si really encapsulates what we need to be doing when it comes to taking care of the earth and taking care of the poor.
Thanks, Julian. I appreciate you saying that. Zoe.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for joining today. Happy Earth Month, happy Earth Day from yesterday. I've been a long-term environmentalist, which is probably fairly obvious given my title of Carbon-Free Buildings Coordinator, but I love Earth Month because I feel like everybody shows the same excitement and enthusiasm for the earth as I try to feel all year round. So it's an exciting time to just talk about everything that we can do for ourselves and our earth. So I'm excited to talk more about those ideas today.
And Julian's shirt makes the great point that Earth Day is every day. So it's not just one day, 1 week, or 1 month. We can do things all throughout the year. And Matt, like you said, it is there's been some defeats lately on a federal level, but working the events by the outreach team, Zoe and Matt are from the outreach team, and they are doing dozens and dozens of events this year, this month, because it's Earth Month. They're going all over the place. And when I was doing more events, when I first came to CUB, it was such a great feeling to talk to people and see how interested and connected people are to these issues. They want to be able to do things that are good for the planet. And it's great to also talk about how those same things are good for your pocketbook. So speaking of pocketbook, we're going to start off with no or low cost actions you can do to celebrate this month and any month to save energy and money. So what do you got for us, Matt and Zoe? And Julian, feel free to hop in to talk about things you do around your house. I know you're passionate about EVs and solar panels. We're going to get to that before the end of the talk, but let's talk about no or low cost actions you can take around the house.
Yeah, I can go ahead and say a couple of my favorites and then I'll pass it off to Matt to share some more. So one of my favorite tips for no or low cost actions is, in Illinois, our climate changes a lot depending on the time of year. And now, as we're heading into those summer months, I recommend changing the direction of your ceiling fan. So for the summertime, you want to run your ceiling fan counterclockwise. That would be from your position looking up at it to create a downdraft for the summertime. So it makes you feel cooler without using a ton of additional energy to blast that AC. I do recommend, though, turning off the fan when you leave the room because we always say at CUB, fans cool people, not rooms. So just keep that in mind. And something else that I think is important is if you can, try to switch at least 4 of your most used lights to LED bulbs. That's just going to save you energy and a bit of money, which is always what we're looking to do with these energy efficiency actions. And on that same vein, you can also adjust your thermostat to your home's optimal energy saving temperature. So that could be around 75 to 78 degrees in the summertime, but of course, do what feels most comfortable for you. Another thing that you could do is turning off and unplugging your appliances when they are not in use. Because when you have an appliance plugged in, even when it's not charging something, it's using a thing called vampire power. So it's still using a little bit of energy. Actually, more than you think, because vampire power can account for 25% of a product's electric usage on average. So
I,
that's
I
just
find that.
something else.
Oh, go ahead, Zoe. I just was going to say I
Yeah.
find that amazing that the percentage can be that high, that it can actually. And we're talking about your coffee maker that still has like indicator lights on and things like that, correct?
Yes. Things like that.
Got it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I was shocked when I found out that the percentage was that high for that. And I guess one other thing that I wanted to talk about was washing your clothes in cold water. It's probably something you don't really think about too much. This is something that I started doing personally over the last year or so, and I've noticed like no difference in the quality of the wash. So definitely recommend that as well. And I'd love to turn it over to Matt to give a couple of tips here as well.
Sure, happy to run through some. And yeah, the vampire power thing was really fascinating to me because the estimates are just insanely high, and apparently the technology is getting better. So if you like buy a brand spanking new TV, it accounts for vampire power now. But like, I don't know about you all, but like, I don't have the latest and greatest. I don't,
No.
it takes a bit to get there, right? If you're still using old technology, you're still going to have to deal with that vampire power. So unplug them if you can, or use a smart power strip. There's some really fancy devices where you can like plug the TV into like the main power source, and then you can plug in other appliances like video game consoles, DVRs into that. And then when you turn the TV on, it'll power those appliances. So it's kind of a nice, just like technological thing. But when you turn the TV off, it effectively shuts the circuit off for all of those other appliances as if you were unplugging it. So it's a good way to like do it so you don't have to like go behind your TV and like unplug stuff, because in a lot of cases that's just like not realistic for folks.
Yeah.
So some cool stuff you can do there. A big thing that I do in my home, or I just did, I should say, and I think I mentioned this on the last Facebook Live, is weatherization is super important. And it's a lot easier than you think. Like, I do not wear a tool belt. I really don't. We just got like new bookshelves, and my wife effectively did all of it. And I was just like making her tea because I'm just like kind of useless with that. Good with technology, bad with hardware. But I was able to, like, I went on YouTube, I typed in DIY weatherization. I like looked through a couple of videos, found one that was specifically for my unit. I live in a loft, so lofts have their own kind of set of issues. And I followed the video, and I like went to the hardware store. I think I spent like $35 total for weather stripping and caulk. And I caulked my baseboards around my unit. There's some gaps where like the wall met the floor. I caulked that. And most importantly, I put weather stripping on my door. I have this front door that sits right next to my thermostat, and you could like see the light coming through the door. And what was happening is that cold or hot air was going through that door, hitting my thermostat, and just making my thermostat run all the time because it was reading at a hotter or colder temperature than I think was actually in my unit. Sure. And I got the weather stripping, I pull it off, I put it on the inside of the door. You can't see light anymore, and my thermostat isn't running 24/7. And it was super easy. It like blew my mind at how easy it was. So I think those kinds of like weatherization, using the internet in your favor and just like following some guides can make like a really significant difference.
Put on that tool belt, Matt. You've earned it. You've earned that tool belt.
I need to get a new one, walk around the house like the sheriff with my tools.
It is empowering, though. It is amazing with the internet. That Google is a great teacher, and you can learn a lot. And just simple stuff like you said. If you see that gap at the bottom of doors or on the side of doors, like even we use, a snake at the bottom of our door, and that makes a huge difference. We also have some flooding in the backyard. Sometimes that can also stop water from coming in, under the doors, so that it has multiple uses. It keeps the cold air out and the cool air in the summer, and it also helps with any flooding issues we have. So yeah, a lot you can do. Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
No, that's my big one. I guess the next one too that I would recommend, if you're somebody who's already done a lot of efficiency measures in your home, there are some really good programs. And I alluded to this in the beginning. Illinois is a great state for energy efficiency because we have a kind of robust list of different programs that you can take advantage of. Everything from home energy assessments, where the utility can come out based on your income, it's 80% area median income, and they can install some like new base level appliances like light bulbs, like Zoe was talking about, hot water pipe insulation. You can even get a smart thermostat through this program. There are also these programs called demand response programs that I think are like probably the coolest offering at the utility level. These basically change the way that you pay for electricity, because our electric rate, if you're just on default pricing, changes 2 times a year, once in the summer, once in the fall, based on market stuff, I guess. And if you're to switch to one of the demand response programs like hourly pricing or time of use pricing, it changes the way that you pay. Like for hourly pricing, you would pay the hour to hour rate. And generally speaking, during the daytime, late at night, early morning, the prices are much lower than what our default rate is. But then there are some times during the evening, late afternoon, where the prices spike, because we're kind of like paying an average of that. So if you switch to hourly pricing, you can finesse where you're using big ticket items like charging an electric vehicle, doing the dishes, doing the laundry, at times where the energy prices are in a valley. And in some cases, I'm sure our friend Julian can attest to this, it goes into the negative. So if you have an electric vehicle and you're charging during that time, you're effectively like kind of rolling the meter back. So there's some just like really cool programs folks can explore that are really good for your pocketbook, but also good for the environment, because with hourly pricing, when you see those demand spikes, that's because our grid is under some strain, and oftentimes we're paying really dirty fossil fuel generators to meet that energy demand. So ideally, we move outside of those peaks.
And demand response is so important now. Everybody knows we're dealing with heightened energy demand caused by data centers. Things like demand response on a macro level, these big demand response programs, but also on a micro level, just with your own home through things like peak time savings and peak time rewards can be very important. I'm wondering if you could talk just a little bit about AC cycling. Maybe you've already talked about that, but if you could give a little description of that.
Yeah, for sure. Unless Zoe, you want to jump in. I saw you come off mute. I know I just rambled there for a minute, so
no,
I'll concede my time to Zoe.
Okay, all good. I'll keep with the theme of talking about summertime things. Clearly, I'm in the summertime mindset already. But with AC cycling, this is a program where you sign up specifically in the summer months. So if you have a central AC, you will receive a $10 monthly bill credit from June through September, or $40 total. So essentially, how the program works is that you allow ComEd to cycle the compressor of your home central AC unit, or central AC, on and off at peak times of energy across ComEd territory. The compressor is a key component of how your home central AC functions. So you might notice like a slight change, but the fan that is in your air conditioning will already have cooled some air. So most people say that they don't notice a huge change in temperature with this program. And it's just a good way to be rewarded for using a bit less energy during those times of peak demand.
Yeah, $40 credit. I mean, I'll take that any day. So we talked about, I'm wondering if we can go on to moderate budget items, if that's okay, unless you had anything to add about no cost actions or zero cost or low cost actions before we move on. All good?
I think we're good. Yeah, just definitely want to underline folks utilizing CUB resources. Like all of these programs, we're kind of like rapid firing programs and tips and stuff, but Jim and Donald do a really good job of making this stuff exist in fact sheets. So if you go to our website, you can find a lot of this info on our resources tab.
Absolutely. And I know, Donald, you're going to put on that we had the clean energy page on our website that outlines it has tips, and it also outlines all these programs that we're talking about. And one of the things you had on here is, have a heating and cooling professional inspect and clean your equipment once a year. That's important. That, of course, that costs a little money. We want to go to moderate budget items. These are, actions you can take that may cost a little bit more. Still on a moderate budget, may take a little bit more of a commitment. I was wondering if you could talk about some of these things that people can do if they've done all the no cost things and low cost things, and they want to move on to the next step. What are some things you would recommend they do?
Definitely, yeah. So one thing I wanted to touch on would be, oh, can you guys hear me okay? I'm cutting out a little.
We're
Cool.
freezing a
Thank
little
you.
bit, but we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, amazing. Thank you, everyone. So I would recommend to check out your attic's insulation. The U.S. Department of Energy says that you could possibly suffer significant heat loss through your home's attic if the insulation levels are less than the recommended minimum. So I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize, but like in the winter months, for example, your attic is one of the main places where you'll experience heat loss. So if the insulation is even with or below the attic floor joists, I believe is how you say it, then it's time to add some more insulation. So that's definitely something important to keep in mind in terms of weatherization, energy efficiency. It's a relatively affordable way to ensure your home is properly insulated. And as Matt already mentioned, I also just wanted to touch on super quickly, there is a new demand response program that I don't think we mentioned yet.
Yeah.
ComEd is now offering the delivery time of day program too. I would encourage you all to take a look at our fact sheet because it explains it super well. But just very briefly to touch on it, hourly pricing affects the supply side of your bill, your electric bill, I should say, whereas the delivery time of day program affects the delivery side of your bill. So this has to do with a line item on the delivery portion of your bill that is typically fixed, but through this program, that fixed charge is actually, it fluctuates in price, but it's broken up into 4 different time periods throughout the day. It's predetermined prices, and the cool thing about this program is that 3 out of 4 of those time periods in the day are actually lower in price than what you would have paid otherwise. With the one that's higher in price being between 1 to 7 p.m. because that is our one of our times of peak usage generally across the grid. So if you're able to shift a bit of your usage outside of that time period, you can experience additional savings on the delivery side of your bill. And those demand response programs are, they're meant to go together and complement one another. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're already an hourly pricing customer. So along that thread, oh, Matt, I see did you want to mention something as well?
No, my apologies for bringing up demand response early. I was so eager to talk about it. So I know it falls into this moderate one, but yeah, I mean, it's just riffing on demand response for a second. I think it's just, again, like a really, really great way to finesse lower bills and just benefit the grid overall too. So
that this outreach team is eager and enthusiastic. Sometimes you got to just rein them in, but no, please go ahead. You're on a roll. This is good stuff.
100%. We love talking about energy efficiency and all the cool programs that are out there, if you couldn't tell. And on that thread, I really wanted to talk about community solar today. Sure, you've probably heard of this program before if you've been to any type of CUB event. But essentially, if you live in a condo or an apartment building, or let's say you own your home, but you have a shaded rooftop and you don't want to cut down trees or anything like that, community solar is a great option for you here in Illinois. So you subscribe to solar panels at any solar garden within your utility territory. So if you're a ComEd customer, let's say you live in Chicago, you could subscribe to a solar farm in Joliet, for example. So you don't own those solar panels. So you pay the solar provider that you signed up with for what your solar panels produced because you don't own them. So you pay them, but you pay them with typically a 10 to 20% discount built in, thanks to some legislation that has been passed in Illinois over the last 10 years or so. So then you receive the solar payment as a credit as well on your ComEd bill. So I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but you can think of it as, credit on your ComEd bill, and then you pay the solar provider, but you're paying them less than what the credit is worth. So it results in savings. But of course, make sure that read your contract in full to ensure that you will be receiving those savings. And again, we have some great fact sheets that can explain this in more detail. But I just signed up for community solar, so I'm excited to report back on how that goes. So definitely would recommend considering that. And I guess one other thing I feel like I have to mention, because I am our electrification point person at CUB. This is a lower cost way to sort of dip your toe into electrification. You could purchase a single plate induction cooktop if you wanted to try to cut down on some of your air pollution in the kitchen. And the really cool thing about induction cooktops is that the surface itself does not get hot. It directly heats the cookware, so the pot or the pan that you're using. So it's a bit safer because I know it's kind of easy to burn yourself on your cooking top. So usually a single induction plate cooktop could run from like $50 to $100, and you could just set it on top of your existing system, whatever it is, gas or electric, and then you could plug it into a standard outlet that you have in your kitchen. So just wanted to mention that as well. If you're wanting to try something low cost that can help reduce air exposure to pollutants and things like that.
I
That
like
is, go ahead,
Oh,
Matt.
sorry, Jim. I like the suggestion for an electric cooktop. And I think for folks who are wondering, like, if they have a gas stove outside of just like reducing emissions, it heats your water quick. So like if you're like a big like pasta maker or you're like boiling water pretty regularly, it can almost take the spot of like an electric kettle because it boils water so quickly. And I do not have one. I need to get one. But Zoe and I actually did an event in Naperville where we brought some, or somebody we were working with brought some hot plates, and they were making tea for folks, and it was actually blowing my mind how quick the water would boil. Like she put the water in, she set it on the hot plate for a minute, and we walked away, and then I walked back and I'm like, oh my god, it's got like a rolling boil already. It was pretty crazy. So I think just from like an efficiency standpoint, in terms of like cooking in the kitchen, you can get moving a little bit quicker with that stuff.
I agree. That was great that Zoe brought that up. So just correct me if I'm wrong. Let's say you have a gas stove. You're not quite ready to get rid of it for whatever reason. You're not quite ready to get an induction stove, but you could get just one of these hot plates and it would reduce your gas stove usage. That's what you're saying, right?
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great tip. Okay, Julian, am I corrected? Are you also a community solar customer?
Yes, community solar customer. And I promote community solar every day because
yeah, please go.
This is probably one of the most exciting facets of all of the energy programs that are offered, because it's a no cost program, because you're getting a discount because you may not own the solar panels, but you're getting that discount. In fact, in one couple years ago, in one CUB presentation, after the presentation was over, the light bulb clicked on in one of the participants' head, and he said, "This is like free money." So, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And community solar, once people understand it and gravitate to it, it's really something that excites people when they feel that they're getting something that valuable.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Um, just before we move on to the big ticket items and talk a little bit more about solar panels and EVs, what about you had a couple tips in here about the plumber. Can you go into that? We often talk about just energy, but water usage is also an important part of our daily costs and an important thing we can do for the environment.
Yeah, I can throw my 2 cents in here. I think if you have an older toilet, it can be prone to leaks. So if it's like a super old toilet, like 93 or older, it could be worthwhile looking into replacing it because you could be losing water. It could just be constantly running, and then that's going to rack up your water bill without you even really knowing it. But if you're not in a space to replace your toilet, or maybe it's not as old as 93, you could potentially work with a plumber to have them seal some leaks and kind of work on the toilet to make sure that it's good to go. And this counts for your faucets too. Really anything that's tied to your water systems. I think it could be healthy for the overall home just to have somebody come and look and make sure you're not burning through water when you don't need to, because it's getting more expensive over time. So it's not a cheap resource, and it's a finite resource. So we definitely want to, handle that appropriately.
Yeah, great. And the other thing you talked about, I think this was talked about earlier, but another step is just to get a low flow shower head, which goes back to the home energy assessment that you can get through your utility. So I'd like to move on to big ticket items. I'm excited about this. And again, what we're trying to do is have a program where it's very accessible. There are multiple things you can do on multiple budgets to do your part, to not only protect the planet, but also protect your bottom line. So let's talk about EVs. We'll go with the big ticket item, electric vehicles. Julian, I have a feeling that you have something to say about electric vehicles.
A little bit. Yeah, I tell you, it's in the year 2026, it is an exciting year for EVs. Why? Because buying a used EV right now is the best automotive opportunity you have in the automotive industry. Because number one, they're priced low, but the other thing is that they're going to be between 300 and 400,000 used EVs coming off lease. And, don't have to tell you that gas prices are going up. And you look at the electric gas equivalent in Illinois is about $1.50 if you plug it in at home versus, $4.50 at the gas station. Yeah. And the thing is that there's zero emissions. Also, there's talk about the cost of operations. You have no oil changes. You have very little brake jobs. In fact, my son, he drives a Chevy Bolt, and he has over 103,000 miles on it now. And we've only spent for maintenance on the car $1,400, and that was for tires and tire rotations. So we're talking about low maintenance, dependable. I mean, we bought that for him in 2021, and so he drives a lot because he participates in Special Olympics. Mm-hmm. And today you could be in Orland Park. Tomorrow you can be in Waukegan. So
sure.
So that's something that. And the thing is that when you talk about the number of vehicles coming on the market, I mean, we're talking, the price on them, the price level, we're talking under $25,000, and they're kind of like a two-tier level, for under 25,000, the range on them is going to be anywhere from 200 to say close to 300. And then there's a tier that's, I would say, like a Chevy Bolt, a used Chevy Bolt. You would be talking about 200 miles or 210 miles. So these things are, on average, a person only drives 35 miles a day.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so the so the thing is that you know, if you can take advantage of low maintenance, low gas, low energy prices, why not do it?
Absolutely. Great point. No oil change. Boy, I tell you, I would like to get rid of the oil changes, having to go in and get oil changes and a lot of low maintenance. I want to ask you about what kind of ride it is, an EV is, but let me just, can you give us all a little context? How many EVs does your family own?
Three.
Three.
You know, yeah, yeah. The neighborhood kind of calls it the showroom. You know, in fact, it was just the day before yesterday. I just helped my neighbor across the street in a search, and he purchased a used Mustang Mach-E.
Mhm.
And the thing is that, like I say, um, the savings are just tremendous when you talk about, um, you know, the overall maintenance, you know, anything you need, you know, I mean, in fact, on the Chevy Bolt, um, when you take it in for tire rotations, of course, when you take it in, you know, everybody has some kind of rewards program.
Right.
So the thing is that, hey, after three tire rotations, you know, the next one is going to be free. So
Right.
so that even helps there. So it's
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's different type of technology. Of course, people have to learn about it. And you know, and Reuters business publication, uh, you know, as gas prices start going up, they said, look,
Sure.
if you are a two-car family, you know, one of them should be an EV if you're talking about saving money.
Yep.
And so, like I say, I'm a big advocate. You know, I I've been driving electric since 2017, so I have a little bit of experience, and I enjoy the drive.
That, you know, uh, you brought up the, you know, the way gas prices are right now. People need, you know, things to save money. But I love that you brought up, you know, purchasing a used EV. I think a lot of times people think about, oh no, I got to buy this, you know, this new EV. But buying a used EV is a great opportunity for people. And what about incentives? Maybe Zoe and Matt, you can also talk about there, and I'm sure you can too, Julian. There are incentives involved with purchasing EVs, correct?
Only only a few of them are left, and with the Illinois EPA, you can still apply for their rebate. Also, the thing about it is that you know, even new EVs are coming down in price because of the way the market is structured. And so the thing is that there are two new EVs that are coming on the market right now, the Chevy Bolt and the Nissan Leaf, that are under $30,000. But you
Hmm.
know, when you start talking $30,000, that's a big investment. But if you know, to you know, put you know, put some real world facts behind this, you can go find a used Equinox, a used Nissan Area, a used Leaf, a used Bolt, a Volkswagen ID4, a Hyundai Ioniq 5, a Kia EV6, and a Mustang Mach-E. All of those would be under $25,000.
And you pointed out, unfortunately, we got the federal incentive went away. There still is a state incentive that every once in a while, and plus the manufacturers or the dealers sometimes have incentives also, correct?
Yes, that's I tell you, GM is probably doing the best at that because you know, if you wanted to go out today and buy a brand new Chevy Equinox EV, you know, they're throwing $10,000 behind it right off the bat.
Sure.
And then if you're lucky enough to get the rebate from the Illinois EPA, you're talking what, 12 or $13,000 off of this price.
Sure.
To clarify, the Illinois rebate right now scales from it's like 1,500 up to 4,000 based on income, but it can be
Right.
new or used, so that can definitely cut down on the cost.
Sure.
You can bring, like you were saying, Julian, $25,000 just off the Illinois rebate down closer to 20. And if there's some kind of manufacturer rebate, I mean, that brings it into a really accessible ballpark.
Always ask about incentives, right? Right. And Julian, what's your experience with the handling? I've heard that it's superior. First of all, they're very quiet, but also they get to where if you need to go someplace quickly on the road, it does a very good job.
Very quick. You can get there very quick. And I'm not a race car driver by any stretch of the imagination. I just like to save money, and that's what they do best. And I like to reduce emissions because that's the most important thing. People talk about the money savings, but it's even more important is the emissions that you're saving, because the reduced emissions, we're talking about an impact on people. And if you look at the American Lung Association website, it will tell you how many people's lives can be saved by driving an electric vehicle. It's that important.
Mm-hmm. A great point. And speaking of, reducing emissions, doing things that are good for the planet and your pocketbook, you're also a solar panel owner. So you own solar panels. And how long have you had solar panels, and how has that experience worked for you?
Let's see. My solar panels were installed in July of 2020, and that's another delight to life, I like to say, because the thing is that it reduces that electric bill like you wouldn't believe, and it's a blessing. And the thing is that anytime you get to use renewable energy, you're not only helping yourself, you're helping others. Especially, we had already mentioned community solar. I mean, to actually, say that, okay, Jim, you signed up for community solar. Now you've reduced your carbon footprint, but you've given me an opportunity to reduce my carbon footprint because of the way Illinois laws are formulated. So that's a gift that keeps on giving. So it doesn't get any better than that.
Great.
I think it's really neat too, like just conceptually having solar panels, having an electric vehicle, having an air source heat pump, which I know you do have as well. Like, we have entered a time where you can power your home with renewable energy, with solar power. And I think that's just really neat. I really never thought we'd get to a point, to be honest, like when I first started with working for CUB 11 years ago, which is crazy to say. I didn't assume that we would have this kind of technology this quickly within 10 years, but we're here, and it's pretty cool.
It is.
Well put, Matt. Yeah, it is amazing how quickly things have gone. I'm wondering if Zoe or Matt, you can also talk about some of the incentives involved in solar, some of the benefits that you get.
Sure. Yeah, unfortunately, we've alluded to this. We did lose the Inflation Reduction Act federal tax credit, which was 30%. Yeah. Definitely a bummer, but we do, again, like this is kind of the through line through all of this. We do live in a state that does have robust energy efficiency programs and solar programs. So there's something called the Solar Renewable Energy Credit, or the SREC, which can cover about 30% of the total cost of the installation. It's basically what your system's expected to generate over a certain amount of time. That's how they get that math. There's also, we're a net metered state, meaning that if you over generate during a really sunny day, you're going to build up a credit on your bill that you can tap into during the winter, or maybe like a stormy week where we don't have as much sun. And then there's also a utility rebate on top of that is just kind of like a little bit extra. It depends on how big your solar system is, but typically it's like $1,000 to a couple grand based on how big your system is. So all of those incentives together, even without the federal tax credit, still make solar very accessible for folks here in our state.
Yeah, great point. And Zoe, I know you have driven this point home about solar. You've taught me this, but what is it? We've talked about all these big ticket items, about doing these big things, installing panels at your home, even talked about a heat pump, things like that. What is the important first step to do to your home to make sure you're ready to do these big ticket items?
Energy efficiency, Jim. Making sure that your home is properly weatherized and insulated. So ensuring that in the summertime you're keeping that cool air in your home, and in the wintertime you're keeping that warm air in your home as effectively as possible. So I mentioned heat loss a bit before. So ensuring that your insulation is airtight is really important because it allows you to maximize savings from any of these investments that you choose to make inside your home. So I would recommend considering a home energy audit. So I believe we mentioned the free home energy assessment already that is offered through your utilities energy efficiency programs. So the home energy audit is really just the next step up. So essentially what it does is it can pinpoint what part of your home's heating and cooling system and building structure are inefficient. So there may be a blower door test involved or some infrared camera imaging. So doing this home energy audit enables the auditor to determine what upgrades to your home will help you save the most energy and have the fastest payback period. And also on that same note, another thing you can do would be purchasing a smart thermostat. Definitely check out if your utility offers a rebate because a lot of our utilities in Illinois do. Getting a smart thermostat can cut your heating and cooling costs by up to 20%. And, those little percentages start to add up over time. So let's say you're someone who goes in the office most days of the week and you don't have family at home. You could program your thermostat to turn up a couple degrees if it's like summertime while you're away, and then turn it back down a couple degrees when you get home, just to try and like minimize energy usage. So those would be definitely my general energy efficiency tips. And before I forget, I wanted to mention we talked about the ComEd delivery time of day program. So if you choose to enroll in that program, you actually do get a small credit if you have EVs. So it would be $2 a month per EV. It's limited to 2 EVs for a maximum of 24 months. So, small number, but these little things add up over time. So I would recommend taking advantage of all of these programs because, as ratepayers, we are helping to support these programs. So you may as well take advantage of them.
One follow-up question, finding a home auditor, an energy auditor, that can probably be a source of stress for people. Like, where do they go? How can they find an auditor? And you may have mentioned this earlier, but I'm wondering if you can mention it again. If you're interested in a home energy audit, how do you find an auditor?
Oh, sorry, Zoe.
Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead. No, you're good.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. There's a Department of Energy resource that has a contractor list that, being honest, can be hit or miss based on where you're located. So I think talking to neighbors is a really good source, especially for contractors, and just seeing if there are any contractors that have worked with them before and if they've had a positive experience going that route. I know ComEd also has some lists on their website too that you can tap into. So I wish there was like a more streamlined resource, which, spoiler alert, we're like working on something like that with the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition. Hopefully we have something down the line, kind of like the navigator hub for those kinds of resources. But right now it is a little bit of a challenge. But again, just like talking to some of your neighbors, using some of these online resources can be a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I believe the Chicago Bungalow Association has some helpful resources as well for that if you happen to live in the city.
That's a great tip. And we're also some big ticket items could be, if you're not ready for solar panels, Julian pointed out community solar, might be a good step. If you're not ready to buy an EV, there are there's plenty of, not that this would replace your car, but I've seen, it's been amazing how just around our neighborhood, electric scooters, electric bikes, and I see people going, tooling around town, doing grocery runs, on electric bikes, really beautiful new machinery. I mean, you have to watch when you're walking sometimes because people buzz along, but anyway, that's it's all about, if you can't do the big ticket thing, what's the next thing you can do? And talked about, buying, maybe replacing an appliance. What are some, I understand that the utilities offer incentives. We've been talking a lot about incentives. Before you start shopping for an appliance, is a utility website a good stop?
Yeah, it definitely is. I think if you're considering any new appliance down to like a water heater, clothes dryer, even an electric stove, like stuff like that, there might be incentives at the time. So going to your local utility, Ameren or ComEd's website to see what they offer, it's a good space. And you can also give CUB a ring too. Zoe and I think a lot about this, as well as our other colleagues. And you might get to talk to Zoe and I about your potential upgrade, and we can help you navigate some of that stuff, because we're constantly keeping tabs, and they change based on the programmatic year. So sometimes there's kind of like a through line and they're similar, but sometimes they might be switched around year to year. So if you're having trouble accessing it, just give us a ring and we're more than happy to help you navigate that.
We talk about Energy Star approved appliances. That's been one good thing, good bit of news, is that there was a move on the federal level to get rid of the Energy Star program. The Energy Star program has been so successful that they got pushback from people on both sides of the aisle, because the program's been such a money saver, giving people good information about appliances. Turns out people really like to save money, no matter what they believe politically, and that's a good thing. That's the big umbrella here. So energy, visiting Energy Star, energystar.gov can be also a helpful stop. In addition to, if you do have questions and you're not getting any answers, you can always give CUB a call at 1-800-669-5556, and smart people like Matt and Zoe can help answer your questions. So I think we're getting toward the end here. We can talk about, all of these things we've talked about are fun in my book still, but what are some other, maybe we can talk about some fun ways to celebrate Earth Month this year. But before we go on, are there any other tips that we forgot to mention?
Always check with CUB.
Oh, Julian, the check is in the mail, sir. The check is in the mail. Thank you. Yes. And great. Donald puts our 1-800 number in there, and citizensutilityboard.org. Again, all our services are free to the people of Illinois. Our mission is to try to help people cut their utility bills. So, fun ways to celebrate Earth Month. I want to start with Julian, our guest.
Probably a fun way to reduce your carbon footprint is participate in Meatless Monday. Meatless Monday, you don't realize how much of a carbon footprint that eating meat brings. And the thing is, Meatless Monday also gives you a reminder. Every Monday, you'll get an email between 6:30 and 6:45 in the morning. And so they also give you a ton of recipes. So this is as soon as you hear that ding at 6:30 in the morning, you know that it's something that's going to help you and help the planet.
May I ask, what is your favorite meatless dish?
Fish.
Any particular kind?
No, I have a modest palate, so I just, fish. I'm easy to please.
I see. I'm a carrot casserole guy. I fell in love with carrot casserole. My first job out of college, I had to cook once a week for this place I was working at, and carrot casserole was my dish. I became known for being the carrot casserole guy. So that's my favorite meatless dish. Matt or Zoe?
Sure, I can throw mine in there. I really like to hike on Earth Month, Earth Week, Earth Day, if I can. The weather is getting much better. Spring is in effect. And I think it's really important to connect with the thing that we're trying to protect. So even if you're in Chicago, you can go to the lake. There's lots of great forest preserves. Nature's everywhere. And I think it's important to get out there and just be in it so you can understand why we're doing what we're doing.
That's great. Matt, you've held events at the Wild Mile before, right? Would you recommend that?
Oh, that's a great plug. The Wild Mile is awesome. Big shout out to the folks who run the Wild Mile. This is, if folks are familiar with the Chicagoland area, specifically Lincoln Park, there is a big REI over there. I can't think of the road that it's on, but it's right off of the river, and they've started to build this floating dock that runs the length of the river. And there's a lot of like really cool native plantings. They do like different events there. They do like yoga. Our former colleague Elizabeth used to teach yoga classes on it. So there's just a lot of cool stuff, and it's cool to see the river, because I know oftentimes we think about Lake Michigan and Chicago. We don't really think about the river, but they're building some stuff out. So definitely would recommend checking that out and see what they've got going on.
Zoe, you're on.
I didn't know that Elizabeth used to do yoga there. That's so awesome. For me, I would say that composting is a side interest of mine. So if you didn't know this, essentially when food breaks down in landfills, it actually produces methane, which contributes to, greenhouse gas emissions. So if you're interested in reducing your carbon footprint a little bit further, you can try composting. So if you're based in Chicago, the city of Chicago actually offers a free drop-off program. So like let's say you have an airtight container that you like keep in your freezer that you just put used produce in, like things that you were going to throw out anyways. You can take that container, bring it to a drop-off location near you, and they'll compost it for you. So I need to take advantage of that and find one near me, but I definitely would recommend checking that out. And a little plus is that it keeps your trash a little less stinky, since as you probably all know, your trash can get stinky pretty quickly when you're putting in bits of produce and whatnot. I also know that like some suburbs also now offer composting as a part of their like curbside like trash and recycling collection. For example, my parents live in Downers Grove, and they're super excited about this because composting is now a part of their curbside collection services. So yeah, just wanted to make people aware of that as well.
That's great, Zoe. I have two composting stories. Is first of all, Evanston is one of where I live is actually doing that. It's encouraging people now to compost, and we just put it in our yard bin. On the day that they pick it up, we wait and we store it in the fridge or the freezer. We have a freezer that we store it in, and it's working. It's working great. We're getting better at it. I wouldn't say my wife's a lot better at it than me, but I'm working on it. So thank you, Claudia, for teaching me how to be a better composter. I worked on an organic farm my summer before grad school in Maine, and I was fascinated by the compost pile that I had to turn it every once in a while, and they'd always tell me, do not stick your hand in there or anything, you'll get a really bad burn, 3rd-degree burn. And I was amazed at just that whole process, how valuable it was to the farm where I worked, and they used it, manure tea and everything. You wouldn't want to drink it, but it's great for your plants. So that's great. My way of you're probably all going to roll your eyes, but my way of celebrating Earth Month is to use the CUB Action Network to send a message to the Springfield about the Power Act, which we've been talking about reducing energy demand. One of the big reasons, probably the biggest reason that our bills are going through the roof, unfortunately, right now, is because of demand from new and proposed data centers. They don't even have to be running yet, and they're increasing our electric bills. So the Power Act basically is based on a very simple premise. Let's make data centers pay their fair share so that we're not paying higher electric bills for big tech. It's a great piece of legislation. It's called the Power Act. And if you go to cubactioncenter.com, you can send a message to your, you don't even have to use your car to drive the petition to Springfield. That would be bad for the environment. All you have to do is just hit a button and it sends an email to your legislators. And thank you, Donald. Donald is great behind the scenes here, and he gave us the link there on how to send a message for the Power Act. So I also love, Zoe recommended this, the Cleanup Club Chicago. It hosts cleanups periodically. I think that's a great idea, is just to pick up trash in your neighborhood. That's just a really wonderful thing to do for your neighborhood. That's another way to celebrate. So, All right, that is it. To anybody, I'm wondering, Julian, Matt, Zoe, any final messages you want to give people on this Earth Month?
Yes, if you live in a town such as you do, Jim, that is proactive, that's wonderful. And the thing is, I think locally we have to get municipalities
Yeah.
to be more proactive because, I know you're all aware of Oak Park, Climate Action Now. They are really on the ball. And I wish that could spread further across our state.
Great idea. It begins right with your neighbor. That's a great message. So
Shameless volunteer plug here. I always got to do it. I run the volunteer program at CUB, and we're always looking for more volunteers. So if you want to get more engaged, there's a lot of big fights coming up, like Jim mentioned, battling big tech and data centers. Zoe and I and our colleagues have been working on fighting for electrification policies in our state. There's a lot of really cool stuff where you can have an active hand in moving the needle. So if you're interested, you can volunteer. If you go to our website, we have a nice volunteer tab there. You can send in an application and you'll probably hear from me or my colleague Sophia. So if you want to get more plugged in, definitely hit us up and we'd love to have you on the team.
And Julian's a great example of a great volunteer. Some of the best people I've met are through the volunteer program. And just to plug to Matt, when I came to CUB, there was no such thing as a volunteer program at CUB. And Matt and along with some other people have built it up to what it is today, and just puts a lot of time into it, a lot of great work. So thank you to all the volunteers, and thank you to Matt. Zoe, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say feel free to check out our calendar on our website, which I know we've dropped a couple times here. I know we talked about a lot of different areas of clean and affordable energy. So if you were interested in a specific area such as solar or just more general energy efficiency tips, we host events that are suited to those needs. So definitely check it out to see if there are any in the neighborhoods near you. We also offer a virtual utility bill clinic analysis. So if you send an email to ubc@citizensutilityboard.org, you'll receive a personalized free assessment of your energy bills, and you'll receive suggestions on how to be more energy efficient. I guess on a more fun note, every day is Earth Day to me, so no action is too small either to be more energy efficient, save a bit of energy. It's good for your wallet, good for the planet. So yeah, just take advantage of all that exists out there and reach out to us with any questions.
All right, big thanks to all you, Matt, Zoe, and Julian, for all the good work you do and for all your good words today. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and thank you, Donald, for working behind the scenes. You've been listening to CUB Live, celebrating Earth Month on any budget. We wish you a great Earth Month. Have a good day, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.